Welcome to the Mystical Musings with Friends podcast. Join us in these fun, consciousness-expanding episodes hosted by myself, Kimberley Leite, where we discuss the world of the mystical and how this world can enhance your life experience, along with spiritual teachers and leaders from around the world. Join us as we explore subjects including the ascension and oneness teachings, law of attraction, channeling, spiritual healing, psychic explorations, and various other journeys within the mystical, esoteric, and metaphysical realms. It is a journey behind the veil of our reality, and it's a journey of awakening to the powerful being that you truly are. Hi everyone, and welcome to our next episode of Mystical Musings with Friends. So today we have the guest Cindy Kim on our session today, and today's session is all going to be around light language and what is light language. So Cindy, welcome. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me here. I'm really excited to be here.
Oh, it's my pleasure. So Cindy, for those of you who don't know you, tell us about yourself.
Well, I am a practitioner in California, and I conduct QHHT sessions and also BQH sessions. So that's just doing past life regressions and having the client channel their higher self or their guides to answer the questions that they bring forth in the session. And I also do something I guess you would call like sound healing modalities. And one is doing a Biofield Tuning, where I'm using tuning forks and crystals, and that just allows me to tune the mind, body, and spirits, really tuning your aura, your biofield, and also your chakras. And then lastly, what we're talking about for this podcast is light language. And I do one-on-one sessions with clients. And also I just started offering a digital artwork of basically light language codes. And so I also have a YouTube channel, and it's mostly light language transmissions right now with some hypnosis sessions if there's a greater message for humanity.
Wonderful. And I've come across some of your work, and it's amazing. And not just the vocal sound alchemy, but I've come across your digital art, and it's just amazing. Like, apart from the light codes, of course, like with the energy coming through, but just the artistic expressions through it is wonderful. But Cindy, how did you start to discover that you could do light language? How was your story like leading up to that?
Yeah, so I didn't know how to speak light language at all. The moment I heard it, I resonated. I really wanted to learn it. Well, I didn't even know you could learn it. I just thought, you're born with it and you just start channeling it and that's it. And I learned to be clairvoyant. I took clairvoyant classes. It's something that there was a teacher who stated that we can tap into our clairvoyant abilities and that we're all psychic. And I was like, all right, I'm going to take her up on it. I'm going to learn to be clairvoyant. And sure enough, I learned to be clairvoyant. And of course, when I saw Jamie Price. So Jamie Price channels light language. She's super popular on YouTube. And I was watching one of her videos, and she was offering a workshop on how to learn light language, and that all of us can learn light language. And I immediately knew I had to sign up for her class. I also was having a lot of QHHT sessions where clients were coming in with questions about light language. And so there's too many synchronicities of where if my clients are coming to me with light language questions and I'm working with them to activate and remember how to channel light language, and then I'm resonating with all this, like with light language in general. And then I see this, that Jamie Price is offering how to teach it or how to help you tap into your gift. I'm like, it's a no-brainer. So that's what
Wonderful.
I did.
And it was meant to be, of course, like nothing happens by accident, does it? So there were all signs for you. And that's the thing, like we all have these gifts within us. We can all channel. We have the ability to bring forth light language.
And, it's just following the guidance and the steps, what resonates with you, and following the breadcrumbs, and then you'll discover your gifts. And of course, some people might, have the soul contract to really focus on that in their lifetime, but we all have the ability to channel. But, that's wonderful. And, and like for me, for instance, when I discovered I could do light language, I knew a little bit about it, but, for my thing at that time, I was more focused, on just, I guess, channeling and the other things I do. And I was aware of, especially, the light language. And I know that the verbal light language was out there, but again, I didn't really listen too much out there or anything. So I just knew it existed, but I wasn't really into it, I guess. And then when I do my meditations, I connect using Reiki, because I'm also a Reiki therapist. So I do certain techniques, and I do Reiki on myself, and then I channel while I do meditation. And then because I'm a channeler and I'm very in touch and in tune with my inner knowings and the guidance and the messages that come to me, I receive guidance or just to sing, to vocalize. I'm like, that is okay. All right. So, because, for some people, you might receive messages like that, you disregard it. Like, oh, it's my imagination. Oh, it's silly. Like, what do you mean sing? Just sing what? But because I'm attuned to it, I was like, okay. So when I was there doing Reiki, I just connected and I started vocalizing these tones. And I'm like, okay, all right. And I noticed it was a vibration, like, I could feel my lips, vibrating, and it was like this, I can't really explain it really in human concepts. It was very kind of unusual. And I didn't really know what it was, of course, so I asked for guidance, what it is. And, period of, I don't know how long, it got more information about what it was, of course, when I was vibrationally ready. And when I was doing it, because I'm used to the feelings of energy, like when I channel, when I do Reiki, that feeling of feeling high. So I'm very sensitive to energy. So when I was vocalizing this, first it was through my voice, I started to feel so energetically high. And I'm like, whoa, what is this? And it was even more intense than when I would do Reiki on myself. I'm like, whoa, what is this? I started to see colors and lights and all these kind of things that I would do, similarly when I would do Reiki. And then I just knew it was something very, very powerful. And actually, Goddess Isis was my guide here, my teacher, and she actually told me my journey with it. So like for me, for instance, she is my teacher now, like in lifetime now as Kimberley, but she was also my teacher in ancient Egypt and also in the Palladian system, but she was known like other than Isis then. So she showed me this and told me this. So I'm like, okay, so it kind of makes sense how the sounds are a bit unusual, not kind of human-like. And and then she said, and then she kind of referred to the name of sacred sound alchemy. And then the beings of the light, whom I channel, they're saying it's, tones of creation, harmonies of creation, tones of the gods. And when they said that, I was like, whoa. At the time, I was like, whoa, that seems pretty like huge. I'm like, I don't know. And of course, at that time, it was within the last couple of years or something, I kind of felt a bit like, maybe not worthy of it almost. It's like, whoa, what is this power I have? You know what I mean? So I kind of I did it within myself, and then I eventually started to offer it to other people. And then even they, the feedback I got was how powerful it was. And then, so I know it was something I was supposed to explore in this lifetime, but it's, it's so powerful. And obviously since I discovered light language, I've discovered there's a whole heap of, variety of light language. So Cindy, do you want to talk about like the different types of light language and even the ones that you provide in more detail?
Yeah, so I channel predominantly, there's like 4 major energies that that's channeled, and it's galactic, it's ancient earth, angelic, and elementals. And I channel all 4 of those. And, I predominantly, lately I do channel a lot of ancient earth, and it sounds very indigenous, and like the Maoris and like the Polynesians, and it's like very deep, and it's and some people can misunderstand it for being scary, and it's not scary. What it is, it's just more of, it's a lot of energy to move energy. Like it's almost like clearing energy. So it's allowing you to create space to allow other energies, more helpful energies. And that's kind of like what I get. And sometimes like I'll even channel like Tibetan monks, like it'll sound like chanting, or it really just depends. And I never know what it is that I'm going to channel. It just kind of happens. Galactic is another one that I channel quite a bit. They can talk really fast. They can talk like really slow. They can talk, but yeah. And then with elementals, they talk really fast. It's like a feeling of lightness and happiness. And it's just like my whole body will kind of like crunch up because it's like, they're just like they're just like, so high energy is kind of what it is. And sometimes they can talk slower, but it's like a high pitched sound that I make. And then angelics, they're just so loving and supportive and beautiful, and it tends to be more in a singing. I tend to sing light language when it's the angelics. So it really depends. And then like I'll just have fun with it and just channel different kinds of beings. So so lately I know so I have a unicorn guide, and they are very distinct in how they sound. And the unicorns don't really fall into the bucket of any of those four, but it's just so much fun to play with it, just kind of setting the intention of, I want to channel leprechauns, and leprechauns sound so distinct, so different from, the trees or the dragons, or, so it's just like, it's fun just to kind of see what it sounds like.
That's amazing. Because I've heard some of yours, and it's like you do really feel like you feel the energy. I know I'm very sensitive to energy, so I can feel it, and it's just interesting how there's so much light language out there, and it's coming through different forms. Like for instance, yours is very, I guess, distinct. And I've noticed, I was listening to, I think was the galactic one of yours, one of the most recent ones. And I could tell it kind of changed like throughout the session. It's in a way, it changed different languages. And I found that very, very interesting how the style changed.
It always changes. So you can tell when a language is changing when my voice changes. Like that happens all the time. They're always vacillating, and I never know what is going to happen next. I just literally just like, all right. And consciously I'm aware of it. I'm like, whoa, that's really different. Oh, whoa, my mouth is moving really fast. Whoa, yeah. My mouth can move that fast. Oh my gosh. Like, whoa, I'm just letting it go. And like, oh, I'm making like really like this like throat sound thing. Like, oh, okay, oh, that's kind of different. Okay, just going with it. So it's yeah.
It's very, very interesting. And I can understand how, like you said before, some people might misinterpret it, because some light language out there can seem quite confronting, because it's such an unusual sound. But what the beings like say through me, that sometimes these sounds are not from Earth. So in our human minds, we try to analyze it to try and compare it to a sound that's based on Earth, and sometimes they're not. So because of that, the sounds can be a bit unusual. But I find that once you can, even though you might, how strange they are, to kind of release that resistance, because I guess as human beings, sometimes if something sounds very unusual, we kind of have a resistance. And like, what is this? Judgment. You can just like let it go, like go of the resistance, then you can actually tap into it more.
Yeah, and, you're right, because light language is a language of your soul, right? Of the heart. It's not based on your mind. And so you really have to let go of the ego and the analysis of what it is that you're listening to. You just have to allow the energies to come through. There are multidimensional languages coming through. There isn't an interpret. Some people can very few people can interpret what the light language is actually saying. But that's why we always set the intention. You set the intention of what the light language that you want to bring through, and then you just allow it to happen. It's almost like when you're drawing and you're doing artwork, you just go, okay, I want to draw this, and you just kind of draw it, and you just go with the flow. You don't go, okay, now make with a circle and do this and do that and do like that. Just kind of restricts the whole flow. And so it's not about translating. It's just allowing, and just what do you feel? What do you sense? What do you, are you seeing things with your mind's eye? Are you having thoughts? Are you having emotions? Like, that's what you really need to tap into. It's almost like a meditative state of being and just allowing.
Yeah. And yeah, it's interesting, like when you do these different types of light language, that, you know, you do feel different energies happen within you. And, you know, it does bypass that ego, which I found, and this is how I describe it as well. It kind of bypass, it's what I describe it as is meditation on steroids. Because the effects you do on meditation, it might take some time, but with what I find, even, well, personally with me, when I do my meditations, now I do sound, you know, sound alchemy, light language, and it just like, it gets right in there. It really connects me to my higher selves. And when I'm in that state, I am, you know, I can receive messages, like really vivid messages. They show me a lot of things, and it's just, I can actually see and feel my various higher selves, and it's just like you're really tapped in through using light language. Whereas if you were to use just normal meditation, you know, it obviously you can get there with just general meditation, but I find it just bypasses so much deeper, because it bypasses, like you said, that ego mind. When you're just meditating, you know, you still have the thoughts, so you still have to, you know, address the thoughts that come up and so forth in the process of meditation. This one, it kind of just bypasses it. It's very, very interesting, you know, and I can see it at the moment because it's a time of great awakening. It's being activated so much in others, and that's why now I've noticed a lot of people are now doing light language, like it's now being activated within them. So it's just very interesting how that's happening. But yeah, with the light language, obviously there's different types, and you know, also with the light language, like what you said, how it really helps to connect with who you truly are. And like I said, if you allow it to flow through you, then obviously it's more powerful. And, you know, what they've told me, what like the light language that I bring forth, of course, they all have certain unique, and of course your tensions, this is very, very powerful, because, you know, I guess fundamentally we would say that light language, it really helps to bring more, you know, light into your cells. And what I find very interesting is what they've said to me is that it helps to activate dormant DNA. So that's why you feel like high during it, because it's like activating you. And it also helps you to release programs that's no longer needed. And this is why, like, you know, when you do meditation, sometimes, you know, especially when you start doing meditation, you have a lot of resistant thoughts like, this is no good, and I've got things to do, and a lot of things, because you're processing and you're purging. So the light language, especially when you meditate with it, is that how you find it? It's kind of like at the start, all these like thoughts of the day, all these kind of programs that you've attached to fear and dualities are kind of being purged from you. And then when you allow that to be released from you, that's when you start to feel the real ascension, and you feel the high energy, you start to receive the intense guidance. Is that like a similar expression, like meditation on steroids? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, with meditation in general, like if I stop the chatter, then you can just focus more on what's happening with the body. Yeah. Like I sense a lot of vibrations that go on. Sometimes I see things. A lot of times when I channel light language, though, I don't see a lot of things going on clairvoyantly. It's literally, I am just a conduit of energy, and it just comes through. And I also sign light language, and I just allow my hands to move where they need to go. And just by that, based on like how much, like what's happening with my hands, like am I pushing things away? Am I pushing things down? Am I moving stuff around the crown? Am I moving things over to the right side, which is the masculine side, the analysis part, the doing part, or am I moving a lot more over here to, the feminine side, which is all the intuitive part? So I just by that alone, I can sense what is happening with the energies. And also, is the, what am I channeling? Am I channeling ancient earth? Does it feel like, because sometimes when it happens, like I'm literally like moving my hands, like I'm like a warrior going, whoa, and I'm just like moving and just like, and I can be loud, so loud that my throat starts hurting. And I'm like, okay, gotta tone that down. Like I can't sustain this. I gotta like, and I think my higher self's like, okay, all right. Like we'll just tone it down. We're switching gears now. So yeah. And also I want to say like, like everybody channeled differently, even though they might channel the same language. So my Palladian light language might sound very different from your Palladian light language. You know, so it all depends on each person's different channel, and we all have unique energy signatures. And so it's going to be a different experience.
Yeah, it's just like when you channel in general, those of you, you know, watching or listening to this, that channels, you can channel the very same being and the information will be varied because it's to do with the channels or the practitioner's vibration, because we are a combination of many different higher selves, and because of a divine blueprint, we're all unique, even if we do channel the same being or the same origin or collective and so forth, which makes it even more unique. It's wonderful. And just with the hand signing, you know, that actually started to happen with me within the last year. So obviously just going with the guidance, letting this light language flow out of me, of course, and then some of the sounds started to change, and then I started to sign. And I've never, before this, I didn't really notice much signing because I don't know, at that time I didn't really research much into it. I was kind of just letting it flow out of me and just following the guidance. And yeah, I started to do all this hand signing, and I was like, it intensified the energies. I could feel the energies. Some of them are a bit strange. And of course, when I'm doing it with obviously other people, it changes again because it's connecting to the energies of those people that's attending a session.
Exactly.
Like I said. Yeah. So like for instance, with Patreon, I have every month we do a session. So we have multiple members online, and I'm doing, you know, a light language with the intention of, you know, we kind of talk about what's the intention for the session today. And it's, you know, all very different, and everyone has different experience. And it's just amazing how powerful it is. And that's another actual thing as well, like with intentions. And that's very important to note that you said there, because that's how, you know, we move energy, and we actually imprint energy with our intentions. That's how powerful intentions are. So that's exactly how I work also, using intentions. So whenever I do light language, yes, they have there is like the fundamental kind of things that happens with light language, but then with the intentions, you imprint the energy with the intention. So what the client wants to work on, or what you want to work on if you're doing it for yourself. And it actually, like, obviously, like for instance, me, because I'm quite sensitive to it, I actually can feel this. So if I, you know, have the intention of I want to tap and connect more to my higher selves or feel more the power within me, when I do that intention, that actually does happen, you know. And because of my particular abilities, I do have those certain abilities, like such as clairvoyance. So I can see things and feel things in a whole different array of different sensations. But that's why intentions are so powerful. And, you know, everyone can do this. And, you know, some of the sessions I've done, they've, you know, taught people this way. You know, you can imprint energy with everything. So light codes are everywhere, aren't they? Like, yes, me and you know, light language, you know, the more common way to know it is through, you know, the written form, the hand signing, the vocalization. But just for instance, doing like when people are painting, there might be, you know, light codes in there. You can do it with light and sounds, all different kind of things with your imagination, because what we've been conditioned to do is that our imagine is make-believe, but it's not. When we see things, use imagination, we're tapping into different dimensions, and we become the God creator. And that's a powerful process that we can all tap into. For instance, some guidance that have been offered to other people, you know, publicly, is that, you know, to go within, and then, you know, for instance, imagine there's a golden flame within your heart center. And then just when you connect with that, just, you know, vocalize, make the intention to vocalize and to assist with this vocalization to help you connect with who you are. And it could be simple as that. Something simple, you can start doing your own light language, you know, and what I say is that it's all unique. And what happens is that people can compare, you know, like, oh, it doesn't sound like this, so it may not be light language. So they kind of, you know what I mean? Like, they don't think that what they're doing is powerful, but everyone is unique in this.
Right. Yeah. So, you know, you touched on like how it sounds. So for me, when I go on YouTube and I was looking at other people's light language and how they speak they all sound very similar. And so when my light language came through, it was the first time I spoke light language, it was a really deep, like Tibetan monk going. It sounded like one of those really long horn things that go down as and I mean, I can't even channel that right now, but it was so loud and deep, and I'm like, am I channeling light language? Because I've never heard this from anybody else. Everyone has this really beautiful sounding light language, and I'm like, I don't know if this is true. Is this real? Is this real? Is it real?
Mm-hmm.
And and then I'm realizing, no, I'm just channeling different energies, and and that's fine. Also, with signing alone is powerful. So just because I was experimenting with it, and I started losing my voice because I was just trying to get used to all of the energies that were coming through with light language. And so I had to, when I was practicing, starting out, I was just using my hands, doing sessions, setting the intention, and then just using my hands. And the feedback that I got, it was so powerful for them. And for me, I'm just like, really? I thought it was just like a complimentary thing that you do when you see the thing, and that's it. But no, it is its own distinct light language that, like you said, like when you started using your hands, like you felt the intensity of the energies, right?
Yeah. And what I've kind of, not in a way compared it to, but it's similar, with those of you who know Reiki, similar to Reiki attunements, it felt like I was doing mini attunements as well. And what I found very interesting, like through me, it's not just sound, but it's like a vibration. And they were guided, to everyone that listens to my sound alchemy was that to listen with headphones, right? Because my type of light language, because people are unique in this, but because the foundation with the light language coming through me is vibration. And because you might not be able to hear the fine vibrations, with the human ear. Sometimes you hear it. It's still powerful on its own, but I found if you, listen to headphones, it kind of works like binaural beats, and it amplifies the energy. So it's kind of interesting how, there's so much unique light language out there. It's just amazing. And did you find, like, with you, like, different ways people can take your light language? Like, is it more powerful in different ways, or it doesn't kind of matter? Like,
it doesn't matter. I tend to, I don't even know if I'm going to sing, I mostly sing. I always sign with my light language. Sometimes I use crystals, so I'll just hold a crystal in my hand to use the sign. Sometimes I use a tuning fork, and sometimes I'll activate it where it makes a sound. But I know that with practice, like when I use an activated tuning fork throughout the entire session, I get really, my vibration is too high. Like it's too much. Like it's not that I'm not supposed to, but I just know that's just too much. So I only activate at the beginning, but I still hold the actual tuning fork in my hand as I'm signing, because you're still moving energy, because everything is electrical. So you're moving still the energy around, but it's a little bit more powerful. Sometimes I use tuning bowls, but I always kind of tune in as to, with my higher self, like, do we need to use, the tuning forks today? Do we need to use the bowls or the crystals? And then I'll just, use them if I need to.
That's amazing.
But I don't think people, but I was going to say, I don't think people are ready for just hands, just signing with my hands. Because my YouTube channel is mostly, it's just audio. And so if if they're just listening to silence, I think they'll be like, this isn't working. What is this? Like, I think they'd have to see me visibly. And I think that, maybe that's a limiting belief, but, I think it's baby steps of, like, it's kind of a huge jump for people to just to see nothing, hear nothing, and know that it's there, versus seeing me, being silent, and just moving my hands. Right. Like, I think, so it's really powerful. It's cool.
I know, it's just the energies and people that, come in on sessions, just how powerful it is. Like, when I do it just within myself, it's powerful. And then I'm going to do it with others, like online, because obviously energies, there's no such thing as time, basically in energy world. So, it doesn't matter if you're online, outside of the world, you still feel the energies.
And it's just like, when I do it with a group of people online, it's just, the energy is like completely high. Like, it's like I need time to ground, and it's just incredible, like the energy that you feel. And it's just, I really recommend that people, you know, obviously check out your work and discover it for yourself, because, you know, everyone has this ability. And just with that as well, so like, you know, for instance, you do various types, and there's another form, obviously we both do the sound, light language, but what a lot of people tap into is the written form, the automatic writing form. And it's very interesting because I notice a lot of people do that. So I don't know if it's just me, but I find that's even more common, maybe, the written form. And it's interesting how did you come across it? So when you started doing light language, were you doing the hand signing first? Is that how you started, and then the sound came?
So in Jamie Price's workshop, you learn all four. So there's four major ways of also channeling light language that we learn. And it's speaking, it's singing, it's signing, and then it's also writing. So we learned all four at the same time during the workshop. And so it's just more of like afterwards, like I just put it upon myself to practice. Like, you know, the more you practice, the more you strengthen that connection. It's just like with anything that we do, right? It's like, if you want to channel, you need to practice channeling. If you want to do automatic writing, you got to do it every day. It's a muscle that you know, it's your third eye muscle that you need to exercise. It's atrophied so much, or it's calcified. And so you got to do all these different things to kind of break free and like kind of build that muscle.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
and
it's all of it at the same time, really. I mean, it's all, I really wanted to do all of it.
But that's really cool that there are actually courses out there. Like, I actually didn't know you could do courses in this. So that's actually good that people who, you know, obviously what we're talking about today, if this deeply resonates with you, then most likely you're meant to do, you know, light language.
Absolutely.
So that's a good pathway. If you're not feeling confident within yourself, I guess that's a really good step. But of course, there's, you know, courses there. That's great that it is there, but, you know, we all have the ability. And another really cool technique that, you know, the beings of the light share is that you can imprint the water with the light language. So it's not just, you know, when you do light language, whether it's the written on paper or it's signing or it's using a voice, you can actually use that energy to imprint things, which makes it even more exciting. And I do that actually with my drinking water, you know, like, what they say is that, you know, connect with your heart center, and everyone can do this. And then, you know, when you connect, for it, this is just an example, you know, imagine a golden flame, and then as, you know, make the intention, imprint the energy for this light language to maybe heighten the vibration of the water or whatever intentions that you want. And then when you vocalize, imagine that gold light coming out of your voice, for instance, and then imagine that light going into the water. Or you can do that, you know, with your hand. So you can play around with this, you know, so there's many different forms. And so everyone has this ability, you know. I mean, I'm kind of got used to the idea, you know, many years ago about imprinting things, because our obvious background is Reiki as well. So, you know, we learned to, like, we can Reiki our food and that kind of thing. But, you know, you can do it with light language, because all this energy, you know.
That's exactly what I do. Like, I actually use light language every day. I do the same thing with my water. I speak light language to it. I clear energy. You can clear a room using light language. You can use light language for anything. It's so powerful and so versatile.
It is. And everyone can do it. I know, you know, for instance, like me and Cindy might do this in a more intense way, for instance, because we're supposed to explore it in our lifetime here, but everyone has the ability, just like everybody has the ability to channel. So if there's something that resonates with you, you can do it. Like, it doesn't matter what comes out. I mean, over time, you know, the sounds coming out of me has shifted, has changed. But you get to know, if you just allow this to flow from your heart center, you'll be able to feel the energies, and just practice it during your meditation. Who cares? Like, you don't have to record it for others. Just do it for yourself and experiment. Like, you can imprint everything. And it's interesting, you know, with light codes and intentions. It's so powerful. And, you know, like, you know, Dr. Emoto?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like he did all those experiments like with, you know, the water, how the molecular structures of water changes using words. And what are words? Sounds, vibrations, codes, right? So even just by speaking, we're actually expressing light codes, but we don't even think of that. You know what I mean?
Right, even our thoughts too,
Yes.
very powerful.
Yeah.
You're talking about that you're talking about how we can all speak light language, because I just posted my video last night on activating our light language ability. It's actually,
how cool.
Yeah, it's so interesting that you're even mentioning it. And so in the video, I kind of talked about, like how you can start how to speak light language or how to get it going. And it's really like, you know, you just have to just move your mouth, just kind of like get it going. And it's going to sound like gibberish. It's not going to sound like, I can't even speak gibberish anymore. Like, it's not, once you start speaking, that's a way for you to know if you're speaking light language. If you can no longer speak gibberish because you are speaking light language. So you should try it sometime. Like, can you speak gibberish? And it's super hard for me. But when I was first starting to speak light language, I didn't know how to speak light language. So I'm like, and I'm like, and then it was hard for me to even do gibberish because I'm like, okay, what's the next sound I'm going to do? But so it's a really good test.
That is cool. Yeah, because I, like, for instance, for me, mine, like when you listen to mine, it doesn't really sound like a language because it's not really words. It's literally just me humming sounds and vibrations. But like I said, every now and then there'll be some interesting sounds coming through. But you will feel it, you know, when you're expressing what's in your heart, just let it out, you know. And it's a releasement too. So when you're doing this process, it's okay to, like, a lot of people have emotions, intense emotions, because they're, you know, they're releasing the pain and the trauma so that they've stored within their physical bodies and their energetic field. So when you experiment with this, when you play around with this, know that it's very intense, and, you know, you can feel the whole range of emotions. Is that a similar experience to you, Cindy, with you and your work and your clients, that people tend to have a really strong release as well when doing it?
Yeah, so a release can be in a multitude of, you know, forms. And so sometimes just by feeling an emotion somewhere or feeling a sensation, sometimes people will, I mean, it varies. It really does. Sometimes they feel emotions, like they feel something kind of like being released from their head, from their crown. Sometimes they feel like something's being released from, you know, different parts of their chakras. Sometimes it's just seeing a beautiful colors, or it really just depends. I mean, it's, even when I do biofield tuning work, you know, any form of release, if you're twitching, that's awesome. And, you know, sometimes, and you know, after a session, sometimes clients, like, I don't know for you, but when you do sessions, do your clients have detox effects? Because that's something that can happen. And so I always tell clients, you know, it doesn't happen often, but if it does happen with light language, and just make sure that you're aware of it. If you're tired, then go to sleep. If you have, you know, a release of emotions, just allow that to happen. And if you want to minimize it, then just, you know, go in meditation and just kind of like really recognize it, right? And then release it, like, because you need it to pass through you. You can't just keep holding on to it. I mean, because the light language, like the Reiki work that you do, the light language, all of it is releasing the tension, the charge that's in your cells and letting it go. And, you know, if you have a lot of anger or a lot of fear in your, you know, since birth or even past life, you know, you got to let that go. I mean, that's ancestral stuff, right? I mean, we have a lot of ancestors from both sides, mom and dad and grandparents, and, you know, keeps going on and on. And so it's bound to happen, but just allow it. Because you gotta know that that's the next step. Like, you need to, it's like the dark night of the soul, right? You gotta like go through that before you can be reborn, or you can be the phoenix and move forward, or it's like the tower.
Yeah. And that's why it's so powerful, because it bypasses like that ego analytic mind. It just connects to who you are. And of course you might at the start have a little bit of resistance because it's, you know, maybe unusual or that kind of thing. But that I find, like, for instance, if you compare it with this general meditation, you get there faster. And, you know, there's a whole different array of emotions, but definitely there is a detox I find like when you get that energetic high, you're being activated, but after a while, like you'll need to drink lots of water, ground yourself, because a lot of energy, and then your body will likely do need to rest for a period of time. And, for instance, like with myself and with others, a lot of people do see visions and interesting symbology and things like that. Obviously, it's unique to them and their journey and their soul contracts. And like, for instance, for me, what I found very, very powerful, as opposed to just regular meditation, is that by doing this, I was able to actually really vividly see certain soul contracts that I'm supposed to play out in this lifetime, certain soul contracts that have been, I get carried through the different lifetimes, like issues, like things that I need to work on in this lifetime carried forth from another lifetime, little things like that. That's how powerful it can be, and by doing that, it's just amazing. And it's kind of different to channeling. I mean, you're still consciously, I don't know how it is with you when you do light language, but when I do it, I'm channeling, and I often channel how I do it because Isis has been my guide here on earth and elsewhere. So I'm guided. I mean, I can do it without her, obviously, but I'm guided at the moment to channel her while doing light language. And it's kind of cool because you're kind of observing, but you're not. And then you like, for me, for instance, I then embody like all my higher selves, and because of the abilities I have, I can visually kind of see them and stories about them and how I'm existing in the multiverse and all these kind of interesting things. And I could never have that experience without light language. Like, I needed something this powerful to do that. Of course, it all happens in divine time. There's so many people awakening to these abilities, the light workers, because it's time of great awakening. And that's why so many people are being activated, not just with the light language, but so many other abilities. Are you finding that?
That a lot more people are wanting to learn light language, or
or like they feel a calling, or it's being activated within them naturally. Yeah,
I think more and more people are really interested in learning about light language in general, because there are, like, when I listen to YouTube channels, some spiritual leaders they start talking about light language, and I think that kind of gets people going, what's light language? And they start searching for it and like seeking it out, and they're like, oh, that's interesting, like, I want to learn more about it. Or they might pick up a book and learn more about it, or continue. So I think, yes, more and more people are. And I think the fact that I was even guided to do a light language video transmission on activating people's light language ability, I just feel like, since my channel is mostly light language, so I'm assuming the people who are my subscribers are actually they're interested in light language, and there's a reason why they're interested in it, right? I mean, it's not just because it's because I think they're ready to channel light language. And I think people feel that maybe they can't channel it because it's just not active. But if I can learn how to channel light language, then anybody can. It's just a matter of, do you want to? What is your belief system? What is your intention? And are you going to act on it? You can just think about it, but if you don't do anything about it, nothing's going to happen. There's no movement of energy. So if you want to learn light language, try speaking it, try signing up for a class. There are people who, I think there's people who offer it online. Like, check out Jamie Price's website. She doesn't offer it many times a year. But you could check that out. I mean, I was in her class and there were 50 of us.
Wow.
That's a lot of people, right? Like, I thought it would just be like 10 people. There were a lot of people in that class.
That's really good. Yeah, like, before you told me, I had no idea you could take courses in it.
I didn't know either. I saw it on YouTube. I saw Jamie Price say it, and I'm like, what? I can learn like light language? And I really love her energy. Like, she's just a beautiful soul. And I just, so I encourage, your listeners or anybody who's interested in light language to just try it. Daniel Scranton, I don't know if you know who he is. He channels the Arcturians.
Yes.
And he channels on a daily basis. And he even offers how to channel light language. And I think I did take it before I took Jamie Price's class. And that just kind of got me, it was only like 3 hours long, I think. But Jamie Price is like 3 or 4 days long. So that's pretty intense versus his is kind of like more of a, like a, what's it called? Like a Cliff Note version of how to channel light language.
That's awesome. And in your experience, because, you know, you did learn all the different types, what would be, I guess, the most, not easiest, but is it different for other people? Like, obviously for me, like, I still don't do the written light language. Mine's all verbal and hand signing. But for others, when you learn it, would it be like more easier to do it the written form, or it doesn't matter in your experience, like which one you start with?
For each person, I think it's very different. Like some people have an affinity towards speaking or singing or signing or doing written. So it really just depends. Like some just sing, some just write, some don't even want to sing at all. And they're just like, I'll just do written form. It really, I think, just depends. I find spoken light language really easy. Like it's really, it's so much fun too. It's just like, just set the intention and boom, it just comes out. Written is really fun too. Like, so I'll close my eye, I'll set the intention and I will close my eyes and I will see kind of like, which, do I want it a portrait, or do I want it landscape? Do I want it a square? And then I just kind of know, I can see it. And then I see the first drawings, like of what, and then it's like, you're just using your intuition. I just look at the color palette and I go, okay, that's the color, that's the color. And then I just kind of draw. And then, you know, sometimes when I'm trying, I'm like, I don't know about this. This looks like a mess. Like, are you sure? Like, what is this? And then later on, like, it actually turns out better than I expected. And I always check in with my guides. I always check with my higher self or whoever I'm channeling. And I go, is this complete? And they'll say yes or no. And if it's no, I'm like, okay, show me in my mind's eye what I need to do. And then it'll show me what to do. I'm like, okay. And I do it. I do a couple more things. And I ask again, like, is this complete? And they'll say yes. And then it's done.
Wow. That is very cool.
That's my process.
It's good.
And then I'll do automatic writing with it. So if I'm channeling a particular like ascended master or an archangel or whoever it is, then I'll do automatic writing. Okay, tell me what this light language is about. What message do you have for the collective? And then I just automatic write, and then that's it.
That's amazing. And that's something I really like. It's unique, I guess, compared to the vocalizing it and then the written form, because I guess when you vocalize it, there's kind of no barriers. So, you know, I guess I don't know, for me, I guess it's your preference and also what you channel natural. Like, for instance, just general channeling, some people find it more easier to just do automatic writing than it is to speak. For me, it's always the opposite. For me, I prefer speaking, and it's more easy for me to channel with speaking than writing. Like, it just, I don't know, it's just something within me, my soul contracts. It's just, you know, everyone's different. So I guess that's the same with light language. People have a preference and they feel it resonate more when you speak as opposed to written. But I guess when you sing or speak, I guess in a way it can maybe flow, because you don't have those boundaries. Like, you don't have to look, what did I just write? Like, what is that? And then like kind of human, kind of analytic mind, you kind of let that go a little bit more. But what you love about it is the written form. It's just how beautiful it is. And there are actually codes, you know, like sometimes they are just like pictures or paintings, but you can feel the energy coming off it. But you look at them and it really looks like a different language from another world. And it's just amazing that people can tap into it in a written form. And then now they've obviously got the written ones, but now I know you do this and I've seen other people do like the digital versions. And it's just, even if it didn't have light codes, you know, just the actual artwork of it, you know, is amazing. And then things are moving and you can make parts of it move and all that kind of thing. That's amazing. And do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I find that written expression very, very interesting and how that's expressed.
What part of it?
Oh, just like how it's, like, for instance, when you have put it on, like, I don't know, like digitally on paper, like, do you see like a uniform language, or do you see, for instance, a bunch of symbols, you don't know what the meaning is, but there may be a combination of different languages or codes? Like, in your experience, how do you interpret what you
so even
digitally?
So even with the codes, I don't interpret them. I just set the intention of what it is that I want to draw, and then I draw it. And I have a friend who actually is really good at interpretation. So once in a while I'll go, hey, what do you think about this? And she goes, oh, that's a portal. Like, I see ball, and I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. You know, or she's more like, so certain people are really good at interpreting light language. So she's given me feedback that, like, you know, my stuff is a lot of elementals, a lot of nature, a lot of, the light codes are a lot of nature. I also know that I have a light star family that are these yellow beings somewhere far, far, far away, and I don't really know their names. And I know that they communicate through signing light language. But like, when I set the intention to channel their light codes, it's very different. So it's almost like, because there is some uniform, what do I want to say? Like, if somebody is channeling light codes that are Lemurian versus Arcturian, like, there is kind of a distinction as to what it looks like. I don't necessarily channel those light codes per se. Like, the Arcturian light codes are very geometric and dots and curves, and it's really distinct. But yeah, so I don't know really what to say. I guess I just kind of allow whatever happens. And you know, I've been really interested in unicorn energy, and so like, their energy is really different. There are a lot of lines that go through, and they're very flowy. I started channeling dolphin energy, and when they come through, it literally looks like they're like V's that come out, and then there's like, it almost looks like water coming out of a whale's spout, and it just of like, I am like, okay, that's dolphin. But I still don't really interpret that much with my written light codes.
But it's so interesting, isn't it, that different collectives that, you know, you channel, it has you say it has a kind of a distinct kind of different written format. But of course, I've seen people, you know, when it might not be very distinct, and it might be very abstract as well. So I guess there's so many types of written codes, but it's just for visually, it's very cool compared to like verbalizing it. You can actually visually see the codes, you know. It's just really cool how that happens. Yeah.
And I also think you should definitely try.
I know. Yeah. I should know.
It's like automatic writing. It's just kind of like, all right, like, set the intention of what it is that you want to draw. Or like, if you're really connected to Isis, you're like, okay, Isis, like, show me some light codes, and see kind of what happens. And, you know, I think the beginning part, you're just kind of getting warmed up. So, you know, just kind of know that that's just kind of like, you know, when you do automatic writing at the beginning, when you first start automatic writing, you're just like writing what you think, you know, it's your own thoughts. And then later on, it's just like, okay, now I'm channeling, and then you're just starting to write words and phrases that aren't even something that you would say.
Yeah. And I wonder as well if people are more in tune to the original, like the digital forms. I wonder if that is linked also to like people that are more creatively, you know, like more of the artists of the world, more into that expression of creativity. So could be obviously a personality, I think. But what I find as well is, or for my personal experience anyway, and how I channel light language, it's to do with obviously my higher selves. And, you know, my soul contract. So, you know, I know that one of my high selves is Hathors, you know, and the Hathors are very attached to, you know, vibration and sound. So it kind of makes sense that, and I learned this actually after I discovered my form of light language. Doing obviously my meditations using light language, I kind of met different high selves of me, and then one of my high selves is a Hathors, and then I use sound and frequency. So I'm like, even when I'm doing it, it's like the high self of me then takes over. Even though I start with Isis, I kind of go through all the different higher selves, and because just the abilities I have and the sensitivities, I actually do feel their unique energy. So like for instance, one of my high selves is Aphrodite. So then I stay with Aphrodite. I could feel her unique energy. Then I move to another high self and I feel another unique energy while I'm doing the light language. And with the Hathors, it's cool. And I can see the vibration and using the hands. But what I find with all the different higher selves, it carries over, you know, that same light language. So like for me, it doesn't change that much because I guess, so like for instance, when you do it, it's why it's really cool how everyone channels so differently. You channel like, it's very, depending on the collective, it's different. Whereas mine's kind of uniform, right? It's kind of uniform no matter what I channel. So it's very cool. But then again, I don't write, it's more verbal. So yeah, it's really interesting.
It is.
And like, what is the best way? Like, for my understanding, like with the written light language is to kind of hold your hand over it and just feel the energy connect to the heart center. Is there like more ways you can feel the light language when it's written?
No, I think that's a really good one. You can, put your hand over the light language, like look at it, put your hand over the light language, and then you can close your eyes and then just kind of see what happens, like what gets activated. You can also take the light language and put it to your heart, to the heart space, and kind of breathe in the light codes, and then just kind of see what happens with that.
That's awesome. Yeah, and like I think a lot of people too, depending again on your multidimensional self and how you interpret and resonate with different techniques, I guess some people as well resonate more with the written form, like feeling the energy, and some, like you said, will more resonate with hearing, like being activated to the sound as opposed to the written forms. So that's good that there is such a variety out there, you know.
And I think it's subtle too. I think written is a little bit more subtle with their light codes because they're written, it's dense, it's you know, it's on paper or a digital form. I guess digital form is lighter than, you know, it being on paper, but you know, nonetheless sound carries like this, right? It's like, it's just, it's there, right? It's vibration and sound. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's almost like it's not as dense. Like art speaking is not as dense as when you actually write something in the physical. So I think, so I do think that, you know, signing, speaking, singing is a little bit, the right word. It just carries.
Would you find it's more direct? Would you say it's more direct?
I mean, I think written is direct too, but it's more, I guess I just want to say it's more subtle than when it's actually, like, if you want like a healing, like done like quick, like in the moment, you know, I guess I don't really like to say healing, but you know, if you want to transmute energy quickly, right? I think if you speak it or if you sign it or if you sing it is just more instantaneous than it is like if it's in written form. And granted, if you have like, you know, an issue like sleep issues or whatever ailments, you can actually write codes and then put that under your pillow or put it near your area that you're, you know, if your shoulder's hurting, write light codes and you can like put it here or take tape and, you know, take tape and write light codes and like stick it on your, you know, the area that you're hurting, right? And that is actually, you are actually, you know, integrating the light codes that way too. It's not just, so you can get creative with all this stuff. I have a friend, she would start writing light codes on her hand or on her body, you know, and or she actually has a tattoo of her.
I've seen that people have tattoos. Yeah,
because it's permanent.
But that's really cool. Yeah, and actually when you said that, it kind of reminds me of like certain Reiki techniques. I know there's a lot of probably Reiki practitioners out there, and when you do the Reiki symbols, you can, you know, you put that on your body and so forth, and the Reiki symbols is a light language. You know, it's a force field within itself, and you can feel, and you put your hand over the Reiki symbols, you can feel like the energy. And it's the same with, I guess, the light codes, but depending, like you said, it can be more subtle. So maybe people don't feel the I guess the power or the energy of it maybe compared, say, for the sound. And I guess that's another thing too. You have to keep your beliefs open because some people might perceive that if I don't feel anything,
it doesn't work, you know, or it's nothing's happening. But if the more we're open to it, then you're more receptive to those subtle energies, you know what I mean? I think that's an important thing as well.
Yeah, that's a really good point of just because they're not feeling it doesn't mean it's not working. That's
yeah.
And it does depend on your openness to it. Are you really fully open to it? And even if you are, sometimes maybe it's just going to take a little bit more time. It took me a while to actually feel the energy of crystals. Like I would hold a crystal and I'm like, this is a rock. There's nothing. There's like going on there.
Yeah.
And then soon, you know, soon after, like a year later, it's like, oh, I can feel the energy of that crystal. Whoa, like, wow, I feel warmth. You know, so I think it just takes time of just acclimating to the energies. And what I said about the written light codes being dense, like that's just my opinion. It could be completely, for somebody else, it might be totally off, and that's totally fine. But, you know, this is just kind of my impression of what I think.
Yeah. And it's really cool as well. Like another expression is like I've seen is through dance, for instance, movement. So I guess it's an extension of hand signing, moving the body, but moving. And I've done that sometimes. It's not my main focus, but just personally, I felt guided to do certain movements and stuff. And when I was doing that, I guess, I don't know if it compares to like a Tai Chi type thing, and I could feel that it was like, whoa, like his energy. I mean, it's something that a lot of people probably explore as well. So many different ways to explore it.
Like absolutely. Yes. You can sign with your hands and your entire body. Absolutely. And that is, it's your moving energy. It's like Qigong or Tai Chi. It's like they already knew. They already knew it. They're moving their bodies, but it's very specific, right? Specific movements that they do, I think.
So, yeah. Not too much. I'm like, you know, but I do know of Tai Chi, there are certain movements, but it's a good start, you know?
Yeah, it's similar. We're moving energy.
Yeah. I remember when I did it, when I was about to tap into like just movements, I was doing all those kind of unusual movements, and then I started getting flashes of my life in Atlantis. So I do like any kind of light language. Those of you who are sensitive, and those of you watching or listening to this, you are probably sensitive. Otherwise, you wouldn't be watching this. You're interested in these things. It resonates with you. So, you know, you do definitely have these abilities. And I could, you know, it's just amazing how something just like movements, and then I'm like seeing flashes of, you know, my multidimensional life. So that's just how powerful light language is. And it's just, and like any form of channeling, everyone has this ability, and it's just experimenting and believing you are worthy of it. When I started to do the light language, especially what Isis said it was, like tones of the gods, harmonies of creation, it's like, whoa, you know, like you know what I mean? Like it seems pretty big, like, okay, you know what I mean? And then I even had this experience just only the other week. And this is when I was, as I go through my process, when I do a meditation for that language, I connect to my different higher selves. And then when I was connecting to the Hathors, I was doing, like with me, it's kind of like I'm doing attunements with my hands, also with my head, like my head moves and these kind of interesting things. And I could see, it was like I was doing this kind of energetic spiral. I can't really explain it, but it's like I had the knowing. It was like I was creating a whole universe. And I was just like this, whoa moment, you know, like, I don't know if you had any kind of whoa moments. It's like, shows you glimpses of how powerful this is. It's much more than just singing or, you know, connecting to yourself. There's actually a lot more with light language that probably we don't even know yet. Because would you like, do you see this kind of thing as more new? Like, when did you start to see light language appear around? Like for me, I don't feel like it's been around that long, but maybe I was just not ready to come across it, perhaps.
I think there's a tipping point right now, which is why we're hearing more about light language. Because I know Jamie Price has been doing light language for, I think, 20 years.
Okay.
One of the pioneers of light language, of really, you know, she taught us everything that she learned in her 20 years, right? Making it really easy for us, of us having to reinvent the wheel. And she has a book, I think it's called Channeling the Light Language. And it's an amazing book. So if anybody out there is interested in learning about light language, I highly recommend that book.
Oh, that's really good. Actually, if you want, give me the link is there like some information about it? And I'll put it actually, I'll I'll put it like in the YouTube description. It's going to be on Podbean as well on social media. Like I'll put the link there so people can actually access it. That's really good that people can read more about it. And I know, like we're talking about it off air actually before we started recording, there's a Facebook group. If you're interested in light language, exploring what it is, there's a Facebook group called, was it Keepers of the Code? And you'll find a lot of people share their light language there. So it's kind of a good way to discover a whole heap of different light languages.
Yeah, and she also, Suzanne, she's the admin for the group. She does a light lounge. And so I think I don't know how frequently she's doing it now, but I think it might be monthly. And it's free, and so people can just listen in. They're just invited to a Zoom, and they can listen in to light language codes. They don't have to participate or speak light language, but just to be present for it. So I think that's kind of and then and if you feel like you want to, it's a really safe space. So if you wanted to try your light language, you can, and there's not going to be any judgment.
That's really, really cool. It's really good to have that. And also when I do my group sessions with Patreon, I also say, like, if you feel guided to your own, then this is a safe space to do so. But it's just amazing how this time of Great Awakening, not just people that are channeling more, but people doing light language more in many different forms. And just on another note with the different forms, can you talk a little bit about like the process of digital, because I'm seeing that a lot now, like the digital format. So what actually is the process? Like, do you do the codes and then you kind of scan them in the computer? Like how's the process of doing that?
I use my iPad, and I have an app that I use. Some people use it. Some people are actually using Photoshop, and they are drawing I don't know how they're doing on Photoshop. I'm assuming they have like a pad with a pen thing, like maybe an Apple pen, or I don't really know,
like
how
a stylus type thing.
Yeah, and so they're actually tapping. It's all digital, right? So you're taking your pen to your tablet that's connected to your computer. Or I think you can just, because I think artists, right, who do animation, I think that's what they do. So you can do it that way. But I use my iPad, and there's different applications that you can download to do it. So really, it's just the application allows you just really take, like, I have an Apple Pen, and I'm just drawing on my iPad, and it has everything that I need.
And do you find that it's just as effective as when you like do it on paper with a pen or a pencil or something like that? Like, in your experience?
Yeah, so I've noticed that my light codes have changed in general. So I do, on my Instagram, I do have photos of when I act with pen and paper. And you'll be able to see the evolution of my light language codes. But so I haven't written on paper in a while, so I don't know if my codes would be the same. So I can't really say.
Well, you would think it would be the same, because it doesn't really matter if it's on paper. It's the same as when you're automatic writing. Like, a lot of people, like when I do it now, like I'm in the process of channeling a couple books, and I don't do that like on paper. I type it. So I guess it's the same kind of thing. Like, it still comes forth, and maybe it's a little bit different because you have to engage with the technology device more, but I think if you're comfortable with that, it shouldn't matter. It's in my perspective. Yeah. I know it does it with me when I channeling normally automatic, like the writing. So I'm assuming it's the same thing.
Yeah, I think it's whatever what you resonate with. I know for automatic writing, my higher self would like for me to actually use pen and paper rather than typing it out. So I tend to do pen and paper, but I also do it on the computer as well. So I don't know why they would prefer me to do that over, this way. But with light language writing, I actually just do it now, just mostly just on digitally.
Yeah, and it looks beautiful as well, and you can make things move, and it's really awesome. Do you actually have any apps, like if people wanted to start experimenting with light language, is there any top of your head, any apps that people can use?
Yeah, so I love Procreate. Procreate is awesome. There is also, I don't know, I know that there are other ones that Adobe has, but I don't recall offhand. But there's plenty of apps that are out there, and they can just kind of look for drawing apps and see. I really like the iPad just because it's portable and it's large enough that I can actually draw. So like if you have an iPhone, I mean, you can do that too, but it's going to be it's smaller. You have a smaller, it's a smaller.
Yeah, a smaller screen. And you probably need a stylus too, wouldn't you? Like to use your finger, maybe it won't be as.
Yeah, I mean, you can use the finger, but you're more precise when you use a stylus for sure.
Interesting. I wonder if you can use a Q-tip or something, if that works. I don't know. Probably not, because it probably needs to be a conductor, yeah? More of a conductor.
Yeah, I don't think so. Yeah, it's almost like when you're having, when you're wearing gloves and you don't have special gloves with tips.
Yeah.
Move things with your iPhone, it doesn't work.
Yeah. Anyway, well, that's cool, but people can, it doesn't have to, if you don't have the facilities to have the stylus and things like that, there's, you can start with a pen and paper, and, if that resonates with you, you can invest in a stylus and iPad or whatever. So that's cool. But yeah, the vocal, like, that's a really easy place to start, because you don't have to, I feel it's like, for me anyway, personally, it's more expressive. Like you don't have to be like, okay, so now I have to kind of show I'm writing a language or has to look a certain way. It's just more, for me anyway, this is my experience. I just feel more free when I'm speaking. There's like less boundaries for me, but everyone's different. So, but that's cool. So yeah, I encourage everyone to get out there and practice, and just, if this conversation resonates with you, then yeah, just everyone has the ability, whether it's just connecting, doing a more meditation, and but make the intention. There's something me and Cindy both emphasize here, is that the intention is very powerful, and you actually imprint the energy. So yes, there are general effects that light language gives you, has certain effects like activating, the dormant DNA, sending more light into your cells, purging, programs that's no longer needed, helps to connect you more of who you are. It can activate more of your like psychic and divine abilities, but you can add to that with your intentions. So whatever you do, just make the intention, and then just go from there. And did you have anything to add on that subject with just how people can tap into light language?
No, I think you summed it up really nicely.
Oh, wonderful. And I also recommend, like I said, there's courses out there too. So that's another cool way if you want to, get into it in more detail, and that's available too. Wonderful. Well, Cindy, thank you for, being a guest on this podcast. It was so fun to have this conversation.
Same here.
Oh, wonderful. So Cindy, where can people find you?
So they can visit my website, balancedalchemy.com. I'm also on YouTube. You can just do a search for Cindy Kim Balanced Alchemy. And I also have an Instagram account. I think you can just type it in, same thing, but if you want the actual handle, it's balancedalchemy_Cindy Kim. I'm also on Facebook.
Wonderful. Yes, I recommend you check her out. And like, it's just got, Cindy has a YouTube channel, so you can actually, listen to some as well. It's very, very cool. And for those of you, want to find my stuff, obviously, you can find me on beingsofthelight.com, find the YouTube links there. I've got, Podbean, Apple Podcasts there. I invite you to check out Patreon, where you can access content, and every month in a Patreon. And it's private. It doesn't get released to the public. So this one, we have monthly sessions where it's a group environment, online group environment. And then I actually do light language with hand signing as well. And we basically discuss what's the intention for the session. And that's when I do the light language. So that there's an opportunity. I've got private sessions, of course, as well, but that's a really fun way to gauge of sound alchemy. If you check on my YouTube channel, Ascension Meditations playlist, I've got some light language sessions there under the name of Sacred Sound Alchemy. So yeah, check it all out. Check Cindy out. She's amazing. All right, everybody. So love and light to you all. Until next time. Farewell. Thank you for listening to this episode of Mystical Musings with Friends. To find more info about myself and how to reach out to me about this podcast, please see the episode details. Remember, you are never alone on your journey, for you are one with all that is.